everyone, welcome back to Football Frenzy. I'm Zoe Alter here with Alex Watts. As always, let's jump right into it, Alex. Starting with news, I laughed when I heard this. The Jaguars are planning on starting Mike Glennon over a healthy Gardner Minshew.
Right. Why are they doing that? Mike Lennon is not good, and Gardner Minshew is their franchise guy. Maybe they're tanking to get somebody else, like Trevor Lawrence, because he's going to go to the Jets. But yeah, I think that they're just tanking and sitting their healthy players and upsetting their good players like Miles Jack, who's probably going to want to trade.
Yep. I mean, Gardner's a young guy, so I feel like it's one of those things where, yeah, Gardner Minshew's had some great games, but he's still learning and he's still on the younger side. So even if you are, I guess, trying to tank or trying to look forward to next season, I think it's still good to have him in there and get reps, especially because DJ Shark's been in and out of everything because of injuries and whatever. And I don't think that Gardner Minshew's they're the Jaguars. It's not like he's gonna be the factor that leads them to victory every single time. It's still the Jaguars. The whole team front and back kind of sucks. So I don't know how that's gonna help him out. So you can put in a sucky quarterback in Mike Glennon, but Gardner Minshew's coming off injury, so you know he's not going to be at the level he was when he left. And I get if you don't want him getting hurt, but he does need the snaps and the repetition of it.
I mean, if he wants to be their starter for the next 2 or 3 years, then yeah. But if they're planning on tanking and getting somebody else, then obviously they're going to have to, they're not going to play him.
They're going to have to try harder to tank just because some of these teams are so bad, as you mentioned, the Jets. But, we can talk about another sucky team, the Lions. So pretty much the most exciting news of the whole season, Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn were fired, which, applaud. I applaud it. The Ford family, thank you. I was happy about this one. I really was. Matt Patricia.
I bet you were.
I liked him in the beginning, but once the breaking point for me was when he traded Diggs. So a lot of people don't know Diggs. I was the biggest Diggs fan ever. Quandre Diggs, he went to the Seahawks. When they traded him, I knew that was it. I was like, I cannot support either of them anymore. That is it. I'm done. And then the Slay thing, I understand why they let Slay go because they got something for him, but it's still, they could have gotten more for him, I feel like, and if they had traded him earlier. And also just the people who have come out and said that Matt Patricia wasn't good to them or that he said things he shouldn't have said to them. Like, I know I saw a tweet, I think it might have been Ashawn Robinson or some Lions player who came out and said, Matt Patricia told me, he was making a joke. He was like, you got your job away when you told me you were going to take mine away. Because Matt Patricia would tell things to his players. And he just, I don't know. The team didn't seem to love him. The Lions said they were overworked players. And I honestly, I'm all for the players. And I love when a coach, I understand when a coach has to be harsh, but you can be harsh if you're winning. If Matt Patricia was still with the Patriots and they were winning the same way, sure. But you're the Lions, you're not winning. And something just to add on, and then I'll let you go because I know, I get a little excited. They're both gone. It's the constant rebuild.
I mean, I bet you are. I bet you are excited.
I am excited, but I've heard that they've been looking at candidates, and I'm not the biggest person to look at candidates. I'm kind of whoever you bring in, I'll find out about them when you bring them in. For now, football season's still in play. I'm going to pay attention to other teams. I'm going to pay attention to the Lions, but the actual players in the team, and I'll let the people up top do their stuff. But Darrell Bevell, the offensive coordinator, who's been doing a fantastic job, will be taking over as the head coach for the last 5 games of the season. And then I've heard that the Lions might keep the same person as their GM and head coach like they do in New England with Belichick.
Well, I think that this is great because I said this for how long, or who knows how long, that defensive coordinators don't work out as head coaches. I thought that at first I thought Bill O'Brien was all right, and then he got fired. Now there's Matt Patricia, and I think there was somebody else in Cleveland once. I don't remember who was a defensive coordinator, and that didn't work out at all. So my theory is that defensive coordinators do not work out as head coaches, at least in the modern era. I don't know about 10, 15, 20 years ago, but definitely now they just don't work out as head coaches.
No, I have to agree with you there. But the question is, do you think that Patricia goes back to the Patriots and gets rehired there as the DC?
No, they don't need him.
Okay.
They don't need him. He's going to become DC or whatever for a different team, but definitely not the Patriots. They don't need him anymore.
Okay, got you. And then I have one more question, then we can move on. So I don't know if you know this stat, but it's basically any person who's ever been a head coach for the Lions and has gotten fired, obviously, as all of them have, has never been a head coach again. Do you think this trend will continue for Matt Patricia?
Yes, Matt Patricia does not deserve to be a head coach.
I agree. I agree with that completely. All right,
You know
so
what?
we'll
Now
see
I'm
what
just
happens.
waiting for Adam. Now I'm just waiting for Adam Gase to get fired, and then I'll be happy.
I got so scared. I thought you meant Adam Gase to the Lions, and I was like, no.
I would laugh in your face if that happened. I would laugh in your face.
I will go during the pandemic with bring a paper bag so I can go sit in the stadium with a bag over my face just to show how I feel about Adam Gase, because that would be bad.
Oh God,
Okay.
that'd be awful.
That would. I can't even stop even putting the image in my head. I can't right now. Okay, so a couple suspensions that we found out about. Will Fuller and Eric Reed both suspended for PEDs. This was, I don't know. I mean, Will Fuller's had his share of things where mostly injuries for him, honestly, where he's been on and off. But I think this is, if anything, a bigger deal for him because he's not allowed to play until the earliest next year. And this is the last year of his contract with the Texans. So do you think he's played his last snap there?
No, I don't think so. He's become a really reliable target for Deshaun Watson. I think he's like top 5 in touchdowns in the NFL. So I think now that he's actually healthy, even though he's suspended, now that he's actually healthy, I think that they want to keep him around. They don't want to give up another pretty big name wide receiver. So I think that he could definitely stay. I mean, I did hear rumors about him going to the Green Bay Packers, but
Great.
Great for you. Good. That would be
Love
fantastic for the Lions. But no, I think they'll do as much as they can to stay because they see that he's a really good wide receiver. But who knows? I couldn't tell you.
The one thing there is that I know obviously they're regretting, the decision they made last year, right? With Hopkins, when they let Hopkins go, and obviously like that hasn't worked out so well for them. Their offense has declined a lot. But the thing is that they can, like, Will Fuller isn't taking up that much money, right? But because he's been playing so well and because he ended the season playing well, obviously the PEDs will probably bring down his salary a little bit because no team really wants that, but not by much. He's still gonna get some huge contract wherever he goes because of the quality of his play. And right now, they're not paying him as much as they will pay him if they sign him again. So my question is, why do you sign him if you can go out and get another receiver who's, if you're going to spend the same amount of money, right? Why don't you get a receiver who's better, who's less injury prone, and who doesn't have issues off the field? Like, I know Will Fuller has worked for them because he doesn't cost that much, but now he's going to cost that much. So is it worth it to retain him?
Well, yeah, I think it is, because I think if you look at the situation in a different aspect, Eric Reed, who is their strong safety, got suspended for the same exact thing, who has the same exact trainer as Will Fuller. So clearly it's not going to be on them. Like, if that happened, then it's not going to be on them. It's not their fault that they took PEDs. It's the trainer's fault, which means that I think that they should not have been suspended if they're doing the same thing. I think it should be the trainer that gets, reprimanded, maybe even like a 2-game suspension for the players, but it should really be on the trainer because he was the one who gave them the PEDs while knowing that they were illegal PEDs.
I think that's part of it, but also I think some of it, like what the NFL wants is for the players to take responsibility for it. And obviously they're not going to do that, but I think they kind of, as an NFL player, like you have to, this is your job on the line. So you can't just take something and not know what you take, like what you took. And I know Will Fuller released a statement saying that he had talked about when he was recovering from one of his various injuries, he had asked his doctor and gone over like what medicines he couldn't take. And his doctor told him that he could take this specific one. And he was like, "Are you sure?" And the doctor was like, "Yes, I checked. It's totally fine." So if anything, I heard it was the doctor's fault, not the trainer. But I'm not sure about that one. I'm sure the trainer had something to do with it as well. So, but the problem is that you don't know what's true and what's false, because maybe someone's taking the blame for him because it could ruin his career. So I think that's always kind of a messy situation with suspensions because it's so based on judgment. But we'll see what happens with that. I think Eric Reed obviously is like a figure for them. Like, he'll be back. I'm just interested to see what happens with Will Fuller because I do think they can do better. But
yeah, I agree.
All right, let's go to recaps. So there were 2 games that stood out among many that were just upsets. The first one, Cardinals Patriots. It was in New England, but the Cardinals lost by 3. I just didn't see the Cardinals losing this game. I didn't understand. I mean, Cam Newton threw 2 interceptions and no touchdowns. It was weird to me.
I want to do something for a sec. I want to compare. See, I've been seeing a bunch of stuff on the internet about how Kyler Murray is better than Lamar Jackson. He's not better than Lamar Jackson. They both played the same exact team, the same exact Patriots team. Lamar Jackson had 240 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Kyler Murray had 170 yards, 1 pick, and no touchdowns, and he even rushed for less yards. So I think that this is going to finish that debate that Kyler Murray is better than Lamar Jackson, because he is not better than Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's clearly a better quarterback. I don't care what anybody says. It's in the stats. Lamar Jackson had a better MVP season than Kyler Murray is having right now. Kyler Murray is not even having that great of a season in comparison to Lamar Jackson.
But look at Lamar's season. It's not like Lamar's season is great. And if you look at it, the players around Lamar, like the team
Are
Lamar
trash.
has,
They're terrible. They're terrible.
The defense that Lamar had with him in his MVP season is not comparable to the defense that Kyler has in his Cardinals.
I don't know. The Ravens did not have a top 10 defense last year. It was all
you talked about to me was their defense. Their secondary, they shut everything down.
Well, this is the secondary, but there was no pass rush. There was no run stopping. That's why they lost. That's why they lost to the Browns. That's why they lost to the Chiefs. That's why they lost to the Titans, because they had no run game. And I'm very worried that the Steelers, even without James Conner, they're gonna destroy the Ravens, because they only
we'll get to the Steelers. Do not worry, we will get to your game. Let's finish up one more, and then we can talk all you want about Ravens Steelers, because I know you're excited for that one.
So excited to lose.
So excited. Welcome to being a Lions fan. So Raiders at Falcons. This was the other game of the week that I did not see coming. I mean, you and your, Derek Carr love for him, you should just make a fan page at this point. Derek Carr had no touchdowns and an interception, and the Raiders had 2 field goals as their only points of the whole day, where the Falcons scored 43.
I don't understand how that happened. I mean, no, that's just embarrassing. How do you let up 43 points and then only score 6 against the Atlanta Falcons, who is a terrible team?
I can't tell what's more embarrassing, like the fact that they gave up 43 points, or the fact that the only scoring they had was 2 field goals. I can't decide.
I think that the Falcons are a good team. I think they were just really held to nothing when they had who was their old head coach? I don't remember. Oh, Dan Quinn. When they had Dan Quinn as their head coach, who also happened to be a defensive coordinator. He was fired. Now they're playing really well. So I think that they're not going to choke anymore. They're not going to lose big games anymore. And I think that they're going to end up becoming a 9-7, 10-6 team next year. I think that they're going to be much better next year.
The thing is, they're running out of time because Matt Ryan is growing older by the second.
It was Julio Jones, but still.
Exactly. They're running out of time.
They're both their prime.
They're past their prime. They were way past it.
No.
But the other thing in that game was that Josh Jacobs got hurt. And I thought that was also a big piece of it, because it's not even as if he was dominating the run game before that. He really wasn't. He had 20 or 30 yards before he went down. But the thing is that having him in the backfield opens up so much for Derek Carr. And you and I have made this point 1,000 times, where we talk about how much the rushing game helps the passing game. But every week we just see proof of it. Derek Carr sometimes will go off and have a great day, and I'll give you that because I know you love him. But he didn't have a good day because Josh Jacobs wasn't there. And even though Josh Jacobs wasn't playing well, without that fear in the backfield of this guy who can run through all of you, the Raiders are a lot less scary.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think that having an injured backfield, I think that, or no backfield at all, I think that it's a really big problem for any offense that wants to generate yardage. This became a trend 2 or 3 years ago. I'm not saying one specific team made that so you can't have a pass game without a rushing game, but I think it's really been integrated into the NFL that you can't really move the chains or get any momentum without a good running game. And it sees you could see it in the stat lines, every single game that a team only has 50, 60 rushing yards besides the Chiefs, they're going to end up losing.
No, it's true. I mean, the league is becoming very pass heavy, but as it's becoming pass heavy, the run's becoming more and more important. Because
I think it's becoming more offense heavy. I don't think it's becoming anything. I think it's the defenses are becoming weaker.
Yeah.
And I think the offenses are becoming heavier.
I
So
think it's
there's
just the offenses are like, you have these guys who are just so impossible to stop. So it makes it so much harder for a defense. Like, you can put the best defensive guy on them, but they're gonna miss sometimes.
Mhm.
So
I mean, you can see it compared to like 15 years ago. Like there weren't heavy hitting defenses like the Steelers or the Ravens or the Bears or whatever.
yeah.
Like, you don't see that anymore. Like the Ravens had such a good defense in 2000. It like even the number one defense in the NFL now would come nowhere near that. Or any other good defense from like 2000, 2001, 2002. It wouldn't come any near that because the defenses I believe are getting weaker and they're not communicating as much.
I agree with that completely. I mean, if you want to talk about defenses, let's just go on to the Ravens Steelers game because I just want to hear your thoughts about this. Obviously, we've talked about it a little bit, but the Ravens are completely decimated because of Corona. This game has been moved so much. What was it supposed to be, the Thursday game originally?
3 times it's been moved. 3 times. And I don't know what to say. I'm very, very worried.
I know he's stressing because game time's in like 4 hours, and from right now it's like 11:30, and he's a little worried because the Ravens are gonna get crushed on national TV. So
yeah. Oh, I'm so excited to see RG3, and if he does bad, then here comes Trace McSorley. The Ravens have to call up their whole entire practice squad this week, so fantastic. I'm just so excited to see the Ravens get rushed on. Hopefully not passed against because, last time, I think when they played the Steelers last, Marlon Humphrey got hurt he was out for the 3 quarters. And then, but the Ravens are starting 1 rookie defensive lineman. Their best defensive lineman is a rookie. And then our fullback who plays defensive lineman has COVID. So we're not even going to have a fullback.
Fullbacks don't even matter.
Yes, they do.
Not really.
To the run game, yes.
It's not like the Ravens had a run game anyway.
Yes, they do.
Can't get worse.
I mean, they're still second in the league for rush yards per game. I mean, that's pretty damn good. First, I think they're first. It's 170 something. They have as many rushing yards as passing yards. You don't see that, but I think that I'm just very worried. I know the Ravens are going to lose. I know that for a fact they're going to lose, and yeah, I'm just very worried.
I mean, I'd be worried too if I were you. The one thing that you can count on is that I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think James Conner's out because of COVID, right?
Yeah, he has COVID, but they have other decent.
I mean, Benny Snell's fantastic, so it's not like it's going to be an issue.
They have, who's the other guy? Something, I don't remember.
The biggest issue for the Ravens, in my opinion, like obviously as we talked about, their run game hasn't been working anyway. The issue is not having Lamar, and I'm actually kind of excited to see what happens in the game because I want to see how they play without Lamar.
I swear, if RG3 plays better than Lamar, I'm gonna flip.
I've always loved RG3. Like, I would love to see him play well. Lamar has the gig. You know that.
Yeah, but last time.
No way RG3. I said RBG. There's no way RG3 steals it.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely won't steal it, but if he plays really well, I will be concerned.
Concerned? That's good that your backup would play well.
Yeah, but I mean, I hope he shows that he can start on any team. Maybe the Jaguars will sign him next year.
Oh my God, yeah. If their tanking plan doesn't work. And I wanted to hit on one more game before we move on to fantasy. I want to talk about Browns Titans because both of these teams are teams that I think the Browns have been flying under the radar a little bit more than the Titans, just because everyone, last year everyone got so high on the Browns. They were like, wow, whatever. And then they sucked. And then they kind of fell back down to that level again where people are like, I don't really care.
8-3.
But yeah, they're both these teams are 8-3. This game is in Tennessee. The Titans are coming off a huge win over the Colts, which was a huge morale booster. And then if you look at the rushing, I mean, we've talked about this a little bit, but Nick Chubb's been back. Kareem Hunt's been, he's kind of booted a little bit, but he still gets those goal line touches. Not as important for fantasy though, which makes me angry, but it's fine. The Browns have the best rush in the league, and the Titans have the second rush in the league.
It's gonna be very, very run heavy. Baker Mayfield and Ryan Tannehill will not pass that much.
Oh, but they will.
I don't know.
Because the pass game is going to open up so much. You think the way that the Titans win this game, which they saw how they won last game, is, and I told you this too, they get AJ Brown involved. And they need to keep doing that. If they continue to get AJ Brown involved, AJ Brown had 2 touchdowns in the last game. One of which was like a kick return, but one of which was like an 80-something yard score because he ran all the way downfield. He caught a ball and then he juked everyone out. If you get the ball in his hands, he's such a monster. He's going to find his way to the end zone eventually. And Tannehill needs to keep feeding him. He can't force the ball to him because that's when you're going to have issues. But the run game's going to open that up, and you need to get him open. He's their key to the game. Absolutely.
I agree. I completely agree. I think it's just going to be a really great game. You know, maybe I'll watch it. You never know.
Oh, maybe you'll watch it. I mean, you don't have a Ravens game to watch, so you might as well.
True. Well, that one's on Tuesday next week. Another weird.
It'll be postponed further. Don't worry.
No, it won't. Don't
Right.
even say that.
Oh, sorry. I'm jinxing. Okay, let's move on to fantasy real quick. So we had talked a little bit about Josh Jacobs, and it turns out his injury isn't as serious as it looked. It looked like it might have been very serious. So Devontae Booker is my guy for this week, and I picked him up immediately, like literally during the game. As soon as I saw Josh Jacobs go down, I was like, okay, waiver wire, let's go. And I still don't have him because I have a claim in for him, so we'll see what happens. But Devontae Booker, I think, is a really good pickup just for the reason that even if Josh Jacobs does play this week because he has a sprained ankle, he's questionable. Even if he does play, there's a chance he either gets re-injured or they limit his snaps because, you know, there's still the Raiders like started off their season well. So they're still on the cusp. Like they could still make the playoffs if they wanted to, you know, like they're still in the playoff picture and they just need to keep playing well and they did not lose by 43, give up 43 to the Falcons, and maybe they'll make the playoffs. But like, I think that Josh Jacobs is a really important part of that for the future. And so I don't know what they're going to do, but I feel like Devontae Booker is a really good guy to have just because you have the concern of injury with Josh Jacobs and you have the concern of them limiting his targets now so that he gets them later in the season.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a pretty good pick. I'm going to pick the running back on the other team, the Jets, surprisingly. I'm going to take Frank Gore because the Raiders just gave up 43 points. So I'm going to trust that Frank Gore is going to get a lot of touches. So never know. I think that he'll have his one breakout game and then sink back into retirement.
Sink back into retirement because, you know, being on the Jets is basically retirement.
That's true.
It is. All right. So if we go to Red Zone to look at our questions from last week, we only 2 of the questions we can count because one of them was about PJ Walker, which just went very downhill for us. Yeah. So we're just going to avoid that one and pretend it never happened. But if I look at the 2 questions from last week, basically the first one was, can the Bengals score 2 or more touchdowns against the Giants defense without Burrow? And the Bengals scored 2 touchdowns, but we were talking about their offense and their offense only scored 1. We both said less, so we got the point for that. And then if we skip to our last question, it was who will get more penalties, Washington or the Cowboys, and they both got the same at 5. So we also both got that point. So it was a nice 2 for 2 week for both of us. And then if we move on to this week, so we have some fun questions. Your first one, you made this. Do you think Carson Wentz gets benched for Jalen Hurts?
Yes, because Carson Wentz is going to play awful and he's going to get benched again because they're playing the Packers, who have a really good defense. And I just think that he's going to get benched. He's going to play bad again. He's literally the worst starting quarterback in the NFL right now. So I think it's about time. I mean, it's unfortunate because he was only drafted 4 years ago. And he's still, 26, 25?
I mean, what happened to all the people saying he was going to be the best thing the NFL has ever seen?
He almost won MVP. I think since he got hurt, he hasn't been back up to speed. Because
that's how it goes usually. Remember how RG3 was? We were just talking about him. Remember how he was before he got hurt?
I'm really upset about that because Carson Wentz is supposed to be really good, and he's just not. So but it is what it is.
I mean, I have to disagree with you there, and just for the sole reason that literally Carson Wentz is all the Eagles have. He's their pride and joy. They have nothing else. And Eagles fans, I mean, I've had a bunch of interactions with them because I'm kind of like a nasty Lions fan sometimes. So, you know, it's in my character to have some nasty conversations with Eagles fans. It's pretty fun. But if you ask an Eagles fan, they're very, very stubborn about their players. And I'm telling you, there's no way they get rid of Carson Wentz just for the reason that it doesn't matter how bad he's playing because he's their quarterback. And they are loyal, if one thing, to the player who's there. Also, not like they have anyone else. Like Jalen Hurts, I love Jalen Hurts. I've loved him since college. I think that one day when he gets the opportunities, he could be a star in this league. But for now, I don't think he's going to get playing time over Carson Wentz, just because Carson Wentz is all the Eagles have. If they take out Carson Wentz, the whole team disbands because you have nothing else going for you. I mean, Slay came to you last year from the Lions, and he's never played this bad in his life. You see him versus DK Metcalf. Like, I get DK Metcalf's kind of a beast, but he couldn't even hang with him at all. Slay's supposed to be one of the best corners in the league.
Yeah, it was not good.
So anyway, that's my reasoning for it. We'll see what happens. I will be very, very surprised if Carson Wentz gets benched, but who knows? It could happen. The next one. So the Bears are playing the Lions this week, and the question is, does Khalil Mack have over or under 2 sacks against the Lions?
I'm gonna say under because he's in a slump. The Bears are in a slump. They're in a 4-game losing streak. So I'm gonna say under because
okay.
Big slump.
The thing is that you have to remember who they're playing because they can be in a losing streak, but it's still the Lions, and the Lions are a complete mess right now. Obviously, they just fired their GM and head coach. They have tons of injuries. Galladay hasn't played in weeks. I don't even know where he is. Maybe if we're lucky, Swift will come back and play for this game. But it's kind of a mess what's happening right now there. The one constant is even Matt Stafford is having his issues. Literally the one constant on the team right now is Kerryon Johnson and his run blocking. He's the one thing keeping this team alive. I swear. Kerryon Johnson is the best run blocker I've ever seen. But other than that, I'm going to say that Khalil Mack has either exactly 2, like 2 or 3. So I guess I'll go over with sacks, just for the reason that the Lions are so depleted and they are such a mess. If you watch them play, Stafford, there's always pressured on Stafford in the pocket. And sure, he gets the ball off fast, but he can only throw the hot route so much. And I know the Bears haven't been great, but it's still Khalil Mack, and they're going to get other pressure on him. And the Lions also, it's not like they have an offensive line that's like a barrier, because they don't. First Khalil Mack, maybe they'll double team him and someone else succeed, but the Lions are afraid of Khalil Mack. I can tell you that right now. Absolutely, completely afraid. And also Darrell Bevell, who would usually just be running the offense, is now running the whole team. So he's going to have so much more going on around him. He's going to have to deal with many more things, and he's not going to be able to solely focus on his offense and how they're playing. He's not going to be able to sit down with his offensive linemen when they come off the field and the defense is on the field. He's not going to be able to do that because he's got to be in the game at all times. So I think the players are going to have to rely more on themselves just because of the way it shakes out with how the firings happen. And for that reason, I see Khalil Mack kind of having a monster game and coming back, because who else would it be against in the Lions? So.
True. All right, so here's the last question. Who has more rushing yards, Nick Chubb or Derrick Henry?
I don't even know why this is a question, just for the fact that I know Nick Chubb is back and better than ever, and that is fantastic. But he fumbles all the time. And sure, he has a fumble, and then he comes out, and Kareem Hunt gets the rest of the game. And Kareem Hunt sometimes breaks away for crazy yards. And I know Nick Chubb can get crazy yardage, but it's Derrick Henry we're talking about. And I know Derrick Henry, I've said before, isn't the most yard-heavy guy. If anything, he gets those touchdowns. But versus a Nick Chubb kind of thing, I don't know. I see Derrick Henry having a big game. The Titans, as I said before, not only A.J. Brown, but are also going to have to play through Derrick Henry. He's their key to winning all the time. And Derrick Henry, even though he puts up a ton of touchdowns and not as many yards, he still gets a ton of yards. And I think this could be a really big game for him to break out. Also, I just don't have that much confidence in Nick Chubb. I don't know why, but he's not as good as Derrick Henry. And I think if anyone in this game, if it's going to be a high-level game, which it probably won't be because it's the Browns and the Titans, and they'll probably mess up somehow and it'll become a mess. But if it is a high-level game, which I hope it is, they have to be at the top of their game. And the top of Derrick Henry's game is a lot better than the top of Nick Chubb's game. So,
well, see, I don't think you're taking into account the defense. Like, the Browns have a really good defense. They have, Myles Garrett, they have Larry Ogunjobi, and they have a really good run defense. So I think that it won't be a matter of who gets more yards. It'll be a matter of who gets contained better. And I think that Derrick Henry will get contained more, which means Nick Chubb will have more yards.
I mean, you also have to remember, Derrick Henry can go outside too.
True.
So I think it is a toss-up. This one, actually, no, I will give you that this one is closer than I thought it was going to be. But if you just look at the two players and their skill sets, I don't know. I just see Derrick Henry taking it. But
all right,
we'll see what happens with that. I
Yeah.
wish you the absolute most luck to your Ravens today
Uh-huh.
because they are going to need it a lot.
Oh yeah, they're gonna need it.
That about wraps it up for us. We'll see you guys next Wednesday with another episode.